Alright, so Harmar broke out that we're the Cherokee, the northeastern mound builders, uh, planet keepers of America, Cherokee Nation. So this is the book where he got the information from, but there's a lot of information that we can look up to find out. But this is a good book. The Hidden Ancestral Identity of the American Negro. Why Black Lives Matter. It's only $11. Go and get this book.
So, him establishing his jurisdiction through his Cherokee roots is all you have to do. Another thing people don't realize, where did Noble Drew Ali establish the first Moorish Science Temple? Nah. First Moorish Science Temple was located in Newark, New Jersey. Right? My tribal headquarters was in East Orange. Anybody that's familiar with Newark and East Orange know it's the same place. So, you think that Noble Drew Ali was establishing a headquarters for a nation down the street from a tribal headquarters and didn't have some interaction with those people? You understand? It's protocol and things of this nature. So Noble Drew Ali do what he was supposed to do, because like I said before, when people fall out of their identities, they take on a general term, just like we call ourselves black. So when people fell out of their nationalities because they was being outlawed and you couldn't be that, or else your family be separated. You understand? If you had a light-skinned child and a brown-skinned child, they would separate the children, right? So to avoid all that, you say, well, I'm not Cherokee, I'm not Choctaw, I'm not Lenape, I'm Negro. Because now you can stay in your territory, you can stay where you own land, where you owned your farms, but you are no longer a threat because the Indians, right, so-called Indians, had jurisdiction. Did you know 100 years ago, if you were sick, you can go find an Indian, go to a doctor, and the doctor got to treat you free of charge if the Indian bring you in there? Yeah. Because he's indigenous to the land, and these people are foreign occupiers, right? So when you have a large...
So you have free healthcare, and you know if wherever you live, you retrace your indigenous people in those areas, you understand that this is all true, and all these indigenous people, we had love. Look at your grandparents, man. They got some love that you ain't never had. They go so deep, they were so solid, and you look at yourself like, damn, what a shame. As you get older and you start learning these things and you fix yourself, you think, damn, man, I think I'll make them proud. I think I'm doing better. You know, I think they would look at me now and say, you know, you're in a failure. But that's the stuff that runs through your mind because of what has been done to us.
When you have a large group of indigenous people that can't be taxed, that's another thing. Indian mean, fuck all that other shit. Indian means you can't get taxed by the European. So if you niggas want to run around here and be something you're not, fine.
So that's why too, if you know you're an Indian, all us, we supply 40% of the revenue. So if we knew we're Indian, they wouldn't get that 40%. They'd be salty right now.
Indian means you can't be taxed. That's why they had to take you out of that status, so they could tax you. Because they got 1,000 people coming into their stores, and they can't tax none of them. They can't make money, right? So they got to remove you from who you are so they can raise them prices on you. It's all economics.
It's all economics, man. Their God is God of commerce. The economics.
Check me out on, right now you can see me at Norris Francis Branham on Turtle Gang. Just type in Turtle Gang. All my stuff will come up. Check me out at Boom Bap Nation. We doing big things with this hip hop movement, man.
Right there. Check them out. Support these people. They're bringing out the knowledge. All right, now let's get into it. If you don't believe him, this right here is a Lenape history. The Muncie and Delaware Lenape people. Updated January 25th, 2014. The Delaware and the Muncie are menacing Mohican. Now remember that movie, The Last of the Mohicans? They were talking about you. Mohican Indians are an ancient group from the Algonquin language-speaking groups of Native America. Now we've learned that the Algonquin are a part of these tribes that you were a part of. And they had grouped together, the Iroquois, the Algonquin, They had tribes amongst them that were called Bente Shemites. So this is your people, or you are amongst these people. Native Americans who covered a large part of Central and Eastern North America. Our origin is very old and could go back, according to recent discoveries, as far back as 30,000 years or more. Just put the dates aside. We called ourselves Lenape, of which the origin of these words are very old. They are said to mean original man, first man, ancient man, or true or common man. The term Delaware is said to have come from where we were than who we were. It is believed that we got the name from the river named after Thomas West, Baron de la Warr, who was the colony of Virginia's first governor. After a period of time, the name came to be given to all the Indians living along the river in the early 1600s. At the time of the arrival of the Europeans, the Lenape probably numbered between 16 to 20,000 people and lived from as far north as central New York. We gotta understand that the reason why they say at the time, but you gotta understand 100 to 300 million people was murdered. So I'm thinking this is after they were murdered. That's all they had. But you gotta study it. But you know that I'll show you this video. It's gonna get deep. And they lived from far north as central New York to as far south as Maryland and at times Virginia, inland as far as central Pennsylvania and Maryland before the Euros, from a period of time between 1000 AD and to the late 1300s to early 1400s. So 1000 AD to 1400s. We may have lived in Ohio or western Pennsylvania. So you gotta understand all these areas where there's your ancient sites, these Pueblo sites, hunter-gatherer sites. These are you. It's believed by some that in the 1300s we may have been forced, the descendants of the mound builders in Ohio, the Cherokees. So they're talking about out of Ohio and south into Kentucky and Tennessee, only to assist them a century later with the Shawnee. So they're supposedly saying they're different from us, and they amalgamated with us later on with the Shawnee when we came together to fight in the Cherokee Wars. In their battle with the Katatwa. Oh, Katatwa, that sounds like the Edomite Indians, Catawba, the Chata, Esaw, related or ancestor of the Lakota people who later became the Plain Indians. The Shawnee at the time lived in North Georgia at this time. Most of the time in history, the various bands, tribes, and villages, even though they had a shared culture, seldom were led by a singed head or council until dealing with the government made it necessity to unite from time to time for survival to do so. So they're united from time to time. Okay? Now if you look, the Lenape Apache people. So natives whose traditionally territory included present-day Texas, New Mexico, Colorado, and the northern Mexico states of Chihuahua, Nuevo Leon, Coahuila, Tamaulipas prior to the 17th century. Present-day Lepan lived mostly throughout the U.S. Southwest, in Texas, New Mexico, and San Carlos Apache Indian Reservation in Arizona. So this is right there establishing that this Lepan are the Cherokee, the Apache Indians, okay? Now let me show you, if you don't believe me, let me show you what the Apache Indians look like. Okay, now this is, first let me show you this. It's the Holy See and European disposition of the Apache Dini peoples. A call for truth, disclosure, and justice and redress. Apache Dini Working Group Shadow Report, UN CERD 88 Session, Review of the Holy See. So you see this map. You see how the areas are cut out differently. So they are different back then. But this one is deep. This is the Holy See. So we understand the Apache were the ND people. or NE peoples, okay? So who are the NE peoples? We could find them in Canada right now, thriving. And this is them right here. This is what an Apache looks like. Look at that brother. Huh? Look at his nose. He's an African. See his facial hair, he doesn't have a full beard. See how his nose is a little bigger. But besides that, this is what an Apache looks like. So that he wasn't lying. Turtle Gang isn't lying, man. All you guys are aboriginals. All of us are aboriginal. My father was a Cherokee. He was manipulated too. We all have been. This is a book. It's by John Clark Rippat. John Rippat Clark, A Popular History of the United States of America. In this book it says, responding with the present state of Texas lived with the wild Comanches, whose very name is synonymous with savage ferocity. Beyond the Rocky Mountains, when the Indian nations of the plains, the great family of the Shoshones, the Shalish and the Klamaths, the Californians, on the Pacific slope farther southward dwelt in former times the famous races of Aztecs and Toltecs. These were the most civilized of the primitive Indian nations, but at the same time among the most feeble, the best builders in wood and stone, but the least warlike of any of the aborigines. Such is a brief sketch of the distribution of the copper-colored race in the New World. The territorial position of the various nations and tribes will be easily understood from the examination of the accompanying map. The Indians were strongly marked with national peculiarities. With national peculiarities. The most striking characteristic of the races was a certain sense of personal independence, willfulness of action, freedom from restraint. To the red man's imagination, the ideal of civil authority, which should be subordinate his passions, curb his will, and thwart his purposes, was intolerable. That how you feel today? Among these people, no common enterprise was possible unless made so by the concurrence of free wills. If the chieftain entered the warpath, his kinsmen and the braves of other tribes followed him only because they chose his leadership. His authority and right of command extended no further than to be the foremost in danger, most cunning in savage strategy, bravest in battle. So of all the relations of Indian life, the medicine man was self-constituted physician and prophet. No man gave him his authority, no man took it away. His right was his own, and his influence depended upon himself and the voluntary respect of the nation, and the solemn debates of the council house, where the red orators pronounced their wild harangues to groups of motionless listeners. Only questions of expediency were decided. The painted sachems as leaders, never thought of imposing on the unwilling minority the decision which had been reached in council. Next among the propensities of the red man was the passion for war. Are we passionate for war? Their wars, however, were always undertaken for the redress of grievances, real or imaginary, and not for conquest. But with the Indian, a redress of grievances meant a personal, vindictive, and bloody vengeance of the offender. The Indians' principle of war were easily understood, but irreconcilable with justice and humanity. The forgiveness of an injury was reckoned and weakness, and a shame revenge was considered among the noble virtues. The open, honorable battle of the open field was an event unknown in Indian. in Indian warfare. Fighting was limited to surprise, the ambuscade. So guerrilla warfare and tactics was created by you. All these special forces trainings are all your ancient trainings. The military strategy consisted of cunning and treachery. Quarter was rarely asked and never granted. Those who were spared from the fight were only reserved for barbarous captivity, ransom, or at the stake. In the torture of his victims, all the diabolical ferocity of the savage warrior's natures burst forth without restraint. In times of peace, the Indian character shown to be an advantage, but the red man was, at his best estate, an unsocial, solitary, and gloomy spirit. Alright, so look at this, enough of that bullshit. Now look at this territories. See the Mobilians, Algonquins, Iroquois. You see? The Athabascans, the Shoshones, the Dakota. That's why today we have North and South Dakota. Just look how big Dakota was. North and South Dakota. Klamath. You see? Salish.
Are you African? Oh, hell, I ain't African. They're not wrong, though. They're not wrong. They're not wrong. No, are they right? Right. But it's just the reaction. Okay. Sure. Now, and I could be a little sensitive because of how I go. Okay, hold up. Here's okay. This is going to answer that question. So, the history of African Americans in America does not necessarily work in their favor based on everything that was logged. As you see all the movies, 12 Years a Slave, it's a constant reminder that, hey, African Americans, this is your story in America. When I was in Nigeria, I did not know of the African American story until I got to America and found out. That's true. Right? I did not know anything about slavery. All I So, the history of African Americans
in America does not necessarily work in their favor based on everything that was logged. As you see all the movies, 12 Years a Slave, it's a constant reminder that, hey, African Americans, this is your story in America. When I was in Nigeria, I did not know of the African American story until I got to America, and of the African American story until I got to America, and found out
That's true.
it's a constant reminder that, hey, African Americans, this is your story in America. When I was in Nigeria, I did not know of the African American story. Hey, African Americans, this is your story in America. When I was in Nigeria, I did not know of the African American story until I got to America and found out.
That's true.
Right? I did not know anything in Nigeria. I did not know of the African American story until I got to America. And in Nigeria, I did not know of the African American story until I got to America and found out.
That's true.
Right? In Nigeria, I did not know of the African American story until I got to America and found out.
That's true.
Right? In Nigeria, I did not know of the African American story until I got to America and found out.
That's true.
Right? The history of African Americans. Sure.
Now, and I could be a little sensitive because of how I grew
Okay,
up.
hold up. Here's the.
Okay.
This is an answer to that. So, the history of African Americans in America does not necessarily work in their favor.